follow-up question. You're saying that, and I would tend to agree that we need to have a year plan, a 5-year plan, or 10-year plan. So what would you then say would that plan include, so that we can ensure that once Christine and B have now, I don't want to say sort of goes out of the limelight, but we need to make sure that there's always an athlete that follows up after them. How do you think we ensure that with a development plan?
Okay, so I have what I refer to four basis points in terms of administration and sports management in Namibia. The first thing is that, is it sports for development or sports development? One key thing. So when you have sports for development, you're doing sport because the ultimate objective is to create a social cohesion, unity, nationhood, statehood, pride and patriotism. That's it. But sports development is that, what is it that you ring-fence around sport to create an industry that retains self-sustaining? And that's when you can talk about revenue generation, income streams, and anything else. Let me give you a scenario. The Australian Sports Commission was established in 1985. The Australian Sports Commission, as an institution like the Namibian Sports Commission, has two streams. They've got the Sport Australia, which is the entity responsible for the welfare of all athletes professionally within Australia. And then they've got the Australian Sports Institute, which is the research and development and coordinating agency for sports to ensure that you have a conveyor belt that allows succession to happen. Okay. Now, the ACC as a sports commission is responsible for policy formulation, regulation, laws, legal charters, constitutional mandate, and that. They operate at the tier. And then the downstream about it, the Sport Australia, they find money, they find sponsorship revenues, they participate in the national fora to make sure that they get money either from a FIFA institution or from World Athletics or from IAAF or whatever you have. And then the other chair, what they do is that once those money is taken, they then form a ring fence around it to make sure that they get business supporting and then make sure that athletes are given the support they need. Now, if you look at the Sports Act, there is a component of the Sports Act that says the Namibian Sports Commission shall be responsible for the Sports Development Fund. Now, in the Sports Development Fund, you then say that, if I ask Mr. Meyer, how much you have in your Sports Development Fund now? Don't be surprised that there's a zero, because it's not ring-fenced to anything. It is ideologically correct, it's not ring-fenced to anything. Now, if we have to go back, and Ms. Jones met here would understand, the few of us who have gone through the Namibia School Sports Union structures in sports, when we went to schools, you already knew that the first thing that you do is track and field. Then you move into team sports. Then you move into individual solo sports. Now, that grassroots development is what created us a passion to move into professional clubs or whatever. Now, that food chain has been cut off. Now, I made that example on the basis that if you look, and again, Honorable Minister, I'm being controversial, but if you look at the institutions like Wanderers, 100 years, GDS, 97 years, Escavia, 75 years, Spartans, Wolfish Bay, 65 years, Harlequins in Swakopmund, close to 60 years, Swakopmund SFC, Swakopmund Football Club, 75 years. So what happened is that they were provided asset, and what was that asset? Land. That's it. That's your land. Develop it, get into partnership with anything, and then what other revenue generated from there depends to you. That's your money. While the same thing was done by the previous administration, to previously advantage, in Bendu, we had African Stars, Black Africa, Tigers, also given the same asset, land, developed it, never happened. So, what went wrong? Because the asset was given. So, now, if you don't find the means to do revenue generation to support these efforts, we will come to a situation where we always have to ask government money. Rightfully so, government has to do that. Now, if government says that now, like we are in an economic crunch and we cannot do that, then unfortunately we have cut ourselves there. And the next option is corporates, and I'll finish now. A corporate like MTC will then say that Mr. Paku, are you full-time employed by the Namibia School Sports Union? No, I'm not. I'm a volunteer. Red flags. How can I entrust 6.5 million Namibian dollars to a volunteer who's not done corporate ethics, who's not done financial accountability, who's not done bookkeeping, accounting, and by the way, he's a parent to a child who plays hockey. It's not a value proposition for a government.
Ms. Manuel, I'd like to jump to you and ask you, as Mr. Congo, it sounds like there's quite a gap. Do you think it's only ministry's responsibility to bridge this gap that he's highlighting, or is it the entire Namibia as we sit to bridge that gap?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. When you look at sport development, it's not one person's responsibility. And I don't want to speak just in air. Let's look at the Act. The Act specifically stipulates that there shall be a commission whose responsibility is it to ensure that the board is there. That responsibility is given to the ministry. Then the Act says that there should be sport federation, and whose responsibility is to ensure that these sports federations are acting properly. It is the Sport Commission. So each segment has its own actor responsible for it. As much as we want to see that sport is properly developed in this country, so long as we leave sport development to 2 or 3 people within the sector itself, then administration and all the other things will not talk to each other.
I want to ask a follow-up question, because it sounds like you're saying that as an industry, we need to work interdisciplinary amongst organizations and amongst federations. Do you think that that is already in place, or is that something that we can work towards?
It depends from which angle you are looking at it. Let me look at specifically like the Boxing Control Board. Currently, as we are sitting here, 3 of them are sponsored by MTC. But when you go to those boxing, Salute Boxing, Nesta, and Kilimanjaro, you know what they are doing, and that is why I have great respect for professional boxing. They give opportunity to the others that cannot have their boxers brought to the boxing ring. And those are the synergies that we are looking for. Colleagues, let's be honest, sport is expensive. But if we create synergies, we can go far.
I would agree with you. And then I'd want to bring Honorable Martin into the discussion here and ask him, as a member of parliament, do you think there's an opportunity that this synergies Ms. Manuel is speaking about, that these synergies can be created from a parliament perspective and then we work it down to the athlete, or is it only up to the sports industry?
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to my honorable minister and everyone here. Well, in this, they say one finger cannot pick up anything. And if we really want to make it as a nation in whatever sphere of sport, it's when there's synergy, when there's collaborations, and when there's coordination from both sides. And I think sometimes when we look at sport or somebody who does sport, we count him in one code of sports. But a person is supposed to be wholly in total in terms of all the sport aspects. Let's not only look at it as if it's done by volleyball or it's done by the boxing or whatever federation that is involved. So whatever we need to do, we need to work together. And whatever we need to develop or need to create or to come up with, it's when everyone has his part to play. And that will only come when everyone put his side on the weight. Otherwise, it will become a burden to whoever is involved. So,
At this point, I'd like to invite the panel. If you have to share, please do so. But I'd like to pose to Ms. Joan a question. As Honorable is saying that each of us should then come and we should carry our weight and we should do our part. Do you think this can be done, as Mr. Congo said, on a voluntary basis? Or what is the way forward if that is not it?
You know, sport is run by volunteers. Let's face it. It is only the Namibia Football Association, the Namibia Rugby Union, Athletics Namibia, not as much as FIFA, the Namibia Cricket Federation. They get some real good support, funding support from the international federations. And the reason for that, for that support is, you know, money is made hugely in sport through broadcasting. Soccer, international soccer is on television every single day. You see big rugby on television. Cricket is on television every single day. And this is why the support from those international federations comes so easily to the federations in countries. And you will also find that those are the federations that can afford officers with full-time staff. Yeah. But let's take boxing, let's take netball, let's take athletics, all the others, tennis, bowls, equestrian, you know, all the others are run by volunteers because they don't get that money. Some of our people are even still running offices, you know, from, you know, their cars. Why do they do it? Many of them do it for the love of the sport. Many of them do not even have family in the sports, but they do it because they were athletes, and they really would like to see athletes going forward. I was a netball player, and I don't have children in sport, not at all. But why do I do what I do? Because this country has brought me to where I wanted to be in netball. And I need to share my passion for sport, you know, with the rest, you know, of my Namibians. And this is my passion, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing and don't mind what I give out. I'm lucky, you know, that I'm working for World Netball now, which is my full-time job and where my salary is coming from. The moment when we have, and look how is you know, okay, unfortunately for football, we won't talk about that. The same with rugby. Look where's rugby. Look at the management of rugby. It's sad. But then you look at cricket. You know, cricket just got a sponsorship from Richelieu. The better they operate, the better, you know, we are going to have a very big African triathlon event on the 23rd of April. And it's not only African countries coming to participate. There are other countries from abroad. Because triathlon is managed by volunteers, and not athletes, but by volunteers. And it's amazing how they managed to get sponsorships to run a professional event. But it then also depends on your contacts, how connected you are. Do you really have the time outside your job to be able to go every day and look for sponsors and do what you need to do? No. So I would like to take my head off for the sport administrators in this country as volunteers going out of their way to do what they do for athletes. You know, I spoke to Henk Botha last week. In fact, he sent me a message. And he said to me, Joan, I'm running low on funds for the girls because they are training in the United States. 4 girls. Henk paid 2 of those girls air tickets to get them to the United States. Is his child doing part of it? No, but Henk wants to do it because he knows what he is investing, not in himself, but in young girls. So we can do much better, if we have a sports office for each of our sport codes with a sports administrator, with a paid salary on a monthly basis. And we will already, start seeing change in the management of our sport.
Can I just come in? I would like to bring in the education sector in terms of the Namibian School Sports Union. We have the teacher fraternity that does all sports voluntarily. And what the Namibian House need to look at is that the structures of the Namibian School Sports Union is fully functional in all 14 regions. And with this structure, the development aspect of all athletes in all sports codes that we can think of can be nurtured, it can be sustained, it can be developed through the structures that are existing. If we want to say that if we want to question the accountability aspect in terms of financial management, we have just recently, 2 years back, got back to the table with the regional directors through the executive director of education, Mesanetis Steenkamp. And I must commend the Ministry of Sports and the Ministry of Education for having signed that memorandum of understanding that sports and physical education must be professionalized. What do we do? As you have rightly said, we volunteer. We did all the teachers that are teaching in Namibia are currently administering sports out of the love of it or out of experience because he or she was an athlete. But what we are advocating as Namibian School Sports Union is that let's train teachers to become sports administrators at school level. Let there be a sports administrator qualified, and I want to commend NAMSCO through the professional sports education training that they are currently busy with, where we are bringing in a lot of teachers to be trained in sports management and administration. That is what I would like to see the corporate world to do. Invest in the Namibian School Sports Union because we have the structures, we have the age. Under 9s are already operating from junior primary. Under 10s are there, under 11 and under 13. You have already covered your junior primary phase. When you go up to the senior primary phase, under 15, under 17, and under 19, these are school-going learners. Now, what happens in the Namibian sector or Namibian House? When an entity like MTC or NamPower or whoever comes on board with money to be plowed into sports, people tend to take away the financial support from school sports. And now an entity should administer these funds. And teachers, for that matter, Hank is a teacher. For the love of being a teacher, he has identified the talent. It's us on school level that identifies the talent earlier. It's us that put up mainly our time, energy. Now, why can't we just help and come on board and say, let's help the teachers, let's help the Namibian School Sports Union because the structures are there. How do we know that? Currently, we have advocated the $2 Namibian affiliation fee. It's been deducted from the directorate before the ministry releases the funds to schools. It's paid into the sports account of the Commerce region, Ochichonjuba Commerce, and the chairperson with his 5-member team is administering sports currently in our regions. So each region has a sports body that is currently running athletics and all the other sports schools. Why do we choose? And this is working. We can literally claim Beatrice is coming from us. Boma, I don't want to mention because she's now a millionaire. So these are our products. What we are saying is invest more in the Namibian School Sport Union, empower us to do the groundwork, and then the Namibian house can shine at the end of the day.
Mr. Mbuya, I want to ask you, Mr. Khokhup just answered some of what I was going to ask as a follow-up to Ms. Jones' comment that she made, that we should have sports administrators have an office for each federation. Do you think this is something that should be driven from the Sports Commission side? Since, as I understand, federations should be affiliated to you. Do you think that's something that should be driven from your side?
Thank you very much. It's a very, very good question. And I knew that that question would come when colleagues were talking about officer space, you name it. In every world, it is an ideal situation. It is an ideal situation. But we also need to look about the reality on the ground. Because we do not want to build castle in the air if ever resources cannot allow. As we emphasize the aspect of creating synergies, when we talk about creating synergies, you do not leave to one individual entity to ensure that they provide whatever is needed. The reality, we know the resources within our ministry, and we are funded by our ministry. And we know the budget is no secret. For us to be able to create an office for every federation, I know it will be a very biggest task, so to say, but that is an ideal situation. That's why when we create synergies, by creating synergies, we have got corporate wealth. They don't need to sponsor. They need to become partners in the business. Why do they become partners in the business? They survive also in the industry, or they survive in the community because of the community in which they live. What we have done so far now, when I'm talking about creating synergies, he mentioned about NAMSCO. I remember from 2017, when NAMSCO started creating that entity, we were directly involved. That's why we are partners with NAMSCO. By creating that synergies, what did we do? Last year, we called all town councils in Namibia, all regional councils in Namibia. We had a very big endeavor in Sokopmund. And we sensitized them by saying, this is the budget of government. Government cannot be able to build all infrastructures in Zambezi, in Kavango, up to Karas. We said, what do you as a regional council? What do you as a town council? You have got community to pay rent and taxes in your own community. You need to create those office spaces in your local authorities. Create sport infrastructures in your local authorities. I'm very happy now. I was in Ongwendiva. Ongwendiva, they now have allocated plus or minus 5 million. They are building their own stadium. I was in Ondangwa. Ondangwa, they allocated 2 million. They are building a stadium. Yesterday, the CEO of Ondangwa was even calling my office. They said, when they saw something I posted on Facebook, on my status when we were in Botswana, the stadium that was constructed by a business community in Botswana. They said, Mr. Muya, please, when the minister goes to Botswana, is it not possible that we can be invited to go and see that business personality? How did he create such a big infrastructure that we can be able to tap that example? That's why I'm talking about creating synergies, not only to rely on government, not only to rely on the Sport Commission, because we are just the arm to implement projects of the government. So everybody in your local authorities, in your town council, wherever you find yourself, you need to contribute if ever you are a serious business person or serious community in that given area. I think that's how we can do it. Synergy is the best idea.
I think why I almost said, Honorable, we are used to working with those. Yes. Why, Mr. Muya, I have just mentioned about synergy. I'm looking at it at the perspective of government and being politician, being sitting in parliament, and the budget is always passed there for whatever ministry it is. And my mom here will attest to it that every time when the budget of sport coming in, I'm one of those who shed tears on looking at the fund that is being allocated. But when we are talking about synergies, Mr. Muya have put it, I always question myself, sport in the country like ours, is it only the responsibility of the Ministry of Sport? I look at it, where is the Ministry of Health? Because when people are fit, that means even going to hospital and whatever the ministry they have to spend, if the fit nation, then What budget do they allocate to the sport aspect as the Ministry of Health? He's talking about local authority. They are falling under what? They are falling under the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development. Then one asks a question, what portion of their budget, whenever they are planning, that allocated to the issues that are related to sport? So yes, the Ministry of Safety and Defense, at least they have athletes and others that are involved in sport. But when we are talking about sport, let it not only give it as a burden to one ministry, but let it be a collective issue. And I want to come back again when Mr. Huahob was talking about teachers being involved and all those, the development of athletes from younger age. I also look at it like, if we are talking about school sport in the regions, then I also question the question, how is the collaborations between school sport with federations within the regions? And then from federations to academic that we have, because there are different sport academies in the different regions. But is there collaborations? Is there a database or tracing of even in athletes? For example, if an athlete is doing well, maybe in whatever code or sport code in Wangwena region, and the parents got transferred to commerce regions, is there a traceable of where is this athlete and the handover of that athlete to somebody who's doing a similar issue in that area where the athlete is? We don't have that coordination within all the peoples that are involved in sport. And I think that is the aspect where we need to really work hard if we really want to raise up sport in our country.
I just want to come back to what Mr. Nekongo said, and that is about the sustainability of a club when they have land. Most of these clubs that are still having land today, imagine 85 and whatever age you were saying, those were clubs before independence. After independence, what did we do for our own clubs? When you go to some local authority, they have, I almost said audacity. You are asked to pay 26 million for an ERF. Where is that sport club going to get 26 million? If you pay 26 million for the ERF, what money are you going to have to build? As a result, our people are becoming demoralized and start focusing in other things. So what I want to say is that the development of a country when it comes to sport is the responsibility of all of us. All of us. Local authority, be realistic. If that club builds something there, at the end of the day, you will get rates and taxes. Now you are telling people 26 and the people go away, and also you lose out on rate and taxes. And then we have to look also to our people in parliament. One thing that I'm going to say here today, and I'm going to stick to it, is that our budget is not market related, not at all. And so long as our budget that are passed by parliament, people entrusted to lead on our behalf is not market related, then we'll be stagnant in the first stage of development, which is just ringing around. Thank you.
I think the elephant in the room has been let out. Historically, and we are 32 years in independence, if you go back at the allocation of budget to the Ministry of Youth and Sport, it has been dismally and proportional very low. On that point, I agree completely. Now, that responsibility alone, yes, and correctly so, cannot and must not only be the burden of government, but government has a bigger role to play, and we can't deny that fact. It's undeniable. From corporate has a responsibility to invest in sport without asking any questions, because corporates exist by the very nature and design from the parents, from those athletes, and from the greater society. What is lacking, Honorable Minister, is that if you look at the Middle East countries, look at Israel, we can benchmark. You see, if the Namibian economy is an $85 billion Namibian economy, and 65% of that is exported and price transfer to other economies. it becomes a worrying question that there is no obligatory statutory law that must enforce and comply that a sport levy should be levied against all these corporates that makes money in Namibia.
Exactly.
That's the first instance that we need to go if we have to find funds to support efforts by government. Let's, when necessary, empower the Sports Commission to say, we must amend the Sports Act to put in a portion of that a sports levy should be levied on all these corporates to make sure that they spend at least a 0.4 or a 1% of total net profit after earnings for sport. And where does that money go? I'm providing solution as a corporate. So that funding will then be given to the Sports Commission, supplemented by the budget that the Ministry of Youth gives. And that funding then goes into a sports fund. And that sports fund then, for interest sake, becomes some 300 million, which is what Mr. Muya to me indicated at one point that I probably need 300 million Namibian dollars to run sports administration professionally here. But the budget ranges between 21 million and 27 million to be divided into 52 sports codes. 52 sports codes.
Yes.
You take 21 million, that is 400,000. That is 400,000, 300,000 give and take for one or so. However, that 400 is not even the flight tickets for 25 athletes. Let me come back. Now, if we levy a 1% of 85 billion, that works out to what? My math is not so good, but let's say 85 million, you give it to Mr. Muya. Government money comes in, it's another 25, 60 million, that's 100 million. Now we've got 100 million in the kitty. And then we can address the question of Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Smith, you ran sports for the last 30 years on passion. But as an athlete, you cannot tell me passion. Passion alone will not pay my running gear, will not pay my tennis racket, and definitely passion alone will not take me to hospital if I get an injury. Now, if we have that money, then we say, Mr. Muya, you have 85 million, 185 million. Now we talk about sports governance framework. And every federation must do the following. Appoint professional expertise, put him on a performance management contract that is able to be monitored and evaluated, give him a job contract and a performance agreement that says, your duty is A, B, C, D, yes, you have got 25 million, that's enough to support your projects, but also find funding for us. And then we will have an overseeing regulatory affairs from the Sports Commission through the Sports Trust that will ensure that you reach those targets. Once we have that, then we don't have volunteers, because now when you have volunteers, volunteer become number one. I work hard for the sponsorship of MTC. Nobody will tell me what to do with this money. And that is the truth that we have with all the squabbles now. I don't dare mention it. Namibia Rugby Union and Namibia Rugby P2L Limited, they got the sponsorship from Winter Club and they say, no, we're running it, you and I will go away. And if NPL and NPL, the same thing. We have got the money, you guys go away. Namibia Gymnastic Federation, Namibia Gymnastic. Okay, now, to us to eliminate these squabbles, we need to have a professional setup and we cannot run away from that fact. If we have these volunteers who have been in sports for the last 30 years, let's give them the contract and say, by basing your experience, we can believe that you can run the sports and we pay your salary. The attitude will change completely. Joan Smith will probably be looking 10 more years more younger because she's used to being chased away that, no, we don't have money as a corporate. If we support that endeavor and the sports trust is existing, then Mr. Muya can stand and say, now that we have asset of 85 million in terms of liquid cash, can I walk to a Renmeshen bank and say, gentlemen, I've got 10 million to invest in a unit trust. I've got 10 million to invest in MTC shares to create interest base that provide a longevity and sustainable process that I know that funds can come in. Oh, and by the way, the business of sport, never have I seen anywhere that there is a prohibition for Sports Federation or the Sports Commission to participate in the economic activities of this country. Number one, mineral resources. Number two, the famous one, fish quotas. Number three, licensing the products and manufacturing of things. In fact, once Mr. Moya's got that money, he can go and say, OTB, Exco Sports, Dina Palma, I'm buying a 10% share value in that, so that I know that now we have national colors that I don't have to worry about because I'm part owner of that structure. Simple as that. But if we not start looking, and this is what I'm saying, because by all means, I love sports because from a passionate point of view. But sport can no longer be seen as just a hobby.
Yeah.
We need to start looking at sport as a business. And we need to, it's mission critical. We start thinking from the business point of view, how do we create revenue outside government? And if you don't do that, government funds are going to keep reducing, and we're going to start participating less because our mindset has always been obligated towards from a government point of view. Thank you.
I just want to come in there. When you look at the NGP5, we are advocating that sport should be contributing to employment creation. Now, when you go to the statistics of those ones that are unemployed in this country, who is it? It is the youth. Now, let me tell you a secret. If you want to create young millionaires, black millionaires, there's only two industries you can go into. Entertainment, musicians and actors, and sport, athletes. Those are the two industries that you can use sport to create employment and help people to sustain their livelihood. And so long as we are undermining the impact of sport on development, we will not accelerate when it comes to us wanting to be where Vision 2030 is projecting us to be. Because when you come in the industry of sport, at the beginning, it is very expensive. You need to pump in money, But towards the end, the sector is flourishing. That's why you have people like Floyd Mayweather. How much is he making? I don't even know, and I cannot even count in Namibian dollars. But what I'm trying to tell you is that so long as we are in denial that we need to opt for sport to assist us to accelerate the development of this country, then it will be always a sad story.
So I want to ask the question that I think is on all of our minds. As the organizations and entities sitting here, why haven't we joined forces, we've sat around a table and tried to come up with a plan that we can implement all of this that you guys are saying?
Come again? The question?
So I'm asking, why have we as the entities sitting here not sat around a table, maybe it has happened and I don't know about it, that we can come up with a strategic plan that is Namibian based, that is homebrewed, and that would fix all of this that we are addressing tonight?
Now that we have John here, and John gave us, the recipe, I think we will pull him in and we will go according to this recipe.
Maybe I may come in there. I believe opportunities of this nature have already happened. I remember, when you are doing your strategic plan, you don't just do it within the office, you involve various stakeholders. I remember 2018 when we did our strategic plan for the Sport Commission, which ended this year, 31st of March, meaning we involved a lot of stakeholders. He talked about the business unit, which he mentioned very well. I remember we already at the Sport Commission, we created a business unit already at the Sport Commission. The aspect of fishing quotas, we have tried our level best since the fishing quota started, even though, it's a high competition. You don't just go there and get one, which we know we're at a very advanced stage. From the Commission point of view, as we speak now, we are also in partnership with Exco Sport, where we generate revenues to ensure that we can be able to run some projects. Because our budget is very limited, but one might ask questions. How do we manage to run a lot of projects? It's not necessarily from government money that we get. It's that money that we generate from other sources that we can be able to sustain ourselves. So meaning this opportunity has been created for many times. We normally sit around the table with various stakeholders, Olympic committee, the ministry, and also business personalities. And we normally have got this type of engagements of this nature. Thank you.
For us as a custodian of Namibian School Sport Union, we are falling under them, and the Ministry of Sports, Ministry of Education. For Commerce region, when I was elected as the chairperson for the region, I took my committee through in 2017. We set a Commerce regional 5-year strategic plan in place. The good thing that I want to echo from Ekongo's statement is we have living examples of Rosing uranium mine producing Frank Fredericks. TCL produced Frank Gayela. CDM produced Tobias, Nestor Tobias. What are the mining sector doing in ploughing back in terms of corporate social responsibility? What we are saying is, as the Namibian School Sport Union, our structures are open. We are getting what we get by the grace of the Lord from the ministry. And we make the best of every circumstances in terms of good governance. And currently, what the ministry is giving, let me take commerce, of which I'm the chairperson. Since the $2 Namibian have been deducted directly from the primary education grant and brought to the table of the sports, Commerce School Sports region, we are getting 154,000. 154,000, and that 154,000 should cater for everything, from athletics to the 12 codes, soccer, netball, rugby, whatsoever. Now, luckily we have another one, which is the city of Windhoek, who is sponsoring the league. Actually, it was the Mayoral Cup, but we transformed it into a league. They give 60,000 vouchers for the win and medals and cup. So what we do is we need more corporate partners. And now that I get the thinking, we are thinking as teachers. But now that we are getting the thinking of the corporate world, it is to sell our strategic plan, the 5-year, 3-year strategic plan to the corporate world for us to be supported in terms of output. And then what we are saying is we are sitting with 97,000 learners in Commerce region. 97,000 learners for 154,000. But we do, and we manage this properly. And at the end of the year, you must give audited financial reports for accountability to the Directorate of Education. So in that line, funds are accounted for. So now we would like to say that now that the door is being opened for corporate world, yes, millions must flow in so that we administer it. But not only on commerce, but the nation, the 14 regions, because the National Council is spearheaded by the 14 regional chairpersons, and they are making the National Council of the NSSU. This structure is so important that they administer all the sports in the different regions. And therefore, no corporate company will make a mistake to invest in the Namibian School Sports Union. Thank you.
I'd like to now ask Honorable, I don't know, I hope I don't make your seat hot with this question, but I'd also like to ask, has government or has Parliament invited these organizations and these entities to also sit with them and ask, listen, from your perspective, what is it that we as government need to do? As you've mentioned, we need to include all ministries, and I'm not only talking about that our Honorable Minister of Sport should do it, but what has Parliament as a whole done to invite these entities and say, listen, come to the table, come tell us, what is it that we need to do from our side? Because then I would just think everything would then filter down better.
I wouldn't answer what have Parliament done or what have government done, because I'm not at that level to answer that. But what I will say is, Parliament is comprises of politicians. Sport is run by die-hard sport people. And all these two bodies need each other. Politicians need sport people, as voters, as whatever. But whatever cookies that comes to the public, it's Parliament that approve it. But do parliaments understand what is happening in the sport corporate world? Do they understand all these aspects of the struggle that sport goes into? And who are the people that are responsible to bring this into their mind? Is the sport people. That's why I'm saying, most of the time I like to say, sometimes maybe we blame politicians, parliamentarians, that even maybe the cakes that is being distributed to the Ministry of Sport is not sufficient. But do these people who approve this budget understand of what is going to happen with this allocation that they are giving out? Do we give them the understanding, or we only talk from aside and we don't make them understanding it? So sometimes that is where the lacking is happening. So we are not collaborating enough. Do we bring issues to them in whole, or do we only burden the Minister of Sport and say, look, this is what as a country we are going through? And then she sit there alone, present whatever she have to present to Parliament, and out of all the 96 members or 108, only 4 or 5 understand what she's talking, and whatever decision that have to be made by majority, and the majority who are there cannot understand what the minister is bringing forth. Yes, you invite politicians when the athletes have done well. We come there, we eat cookies and do whatever. But do we understand? Do we understand the effort and the energy of the pioneers who brought forth this athlete that we are celebrating today? So that is where I'm calling on people that are involved in sport. Let's not sit out there and think that things will happen automatic. Let's make people to see and understand. Let these politicians understand. If time allows, or if opportunity allows, let's write whatever. I was giving an example when we were sitting there. Said people who are advocating for abortion and other things, they write petitions to Parliament, and the Parliament discuss these issues. When do sport people take an issue that they are faced with to Parliament so that Parliament members can discuss over it? And as we know, Parliament consists of committees that deal with different aspects of whatever happening in the societies. How many of the issues that are related to sport matters have been taken to Parliament, and Parliament committees go out and consult and take a decision? Have we done it? Or we are only maybe waiting and blame that politicians are not taking? It's like having, okay, maybe a dog is a bad way to say. It's having a dog in the house, expecting it to bark when thieves are coming, but are you feeding that dog enough so that it have energy to do the work that it have to do? So sometimes we need to also balance it. Yes, I understand we don't understand issues unless we have come through the rank of sport like I, but how many of I do we have in those 108 members that we have in Parliament? That is where the issue is.
Honourable, before I get to Ms. Joan, I want to ask you then, is the door open on Parliament's side for us as the industry to go and tell them, listen, this is what's happening and this is what we need, how can you assist?
The answer to the question will start, who have put those people who are in Parliament there? And what is their responsibilities? Their responsibility is to do what you as a nation who have voted them to do. So there is no closed doors to reach out to Parliament. So, and the problem that I always see, and maybe that is why with these terms that comes of saying honorable and whatever, yes, it's a respect we have to be given. And it seems like this term also keep people away from us. And even the issues that we're supposed to know and understand, so we are able to debate them there in Parliament, are no longer reaching us. Because there is a honorable term between the two of us. So whatever have to come must be honorable matter. But do we digest issues together? So it have to be.
Okay. Ms. Joan, then I want to pose the question to you. Has the sports industry gone to government or to parliament and said, listen, this is what's happening. How do we bridge the gap that is there?
I don't think, this is the place for an athlete to go out with a petition or with a cardboard and stand and walk up to Parliament to say, we now want money. You see, we're using sport as a tool to address socio-economic issues. We use sport as a tool, to raise children, to educate our athletes. And this is why you will see top athletes, regardless of what the struggles are, they will go out there and they will do their level best. And I'm going to refer to her now. We are having Hilalia Johannes here. Hilalia is one of our absolutely top elite athletes. She is a bronze medalist last World Championships. She is a gold medalist last Commonwealth Games. Elalia, did the Nagoya race in Japan, 16,000 athletes, and she came first. I will not expect, from Elalia. I will rather put up the fight. But I should also not, because I need to lead by example. So I will go through my ministry and I will put my issues or matters through my ministry. And my minister, I have full confidence, that she has the political will to do what she needs to do. But like the Honorable just said, how many times he look at her, tabling a budget, and it is just that sport is not a priority for our government, unfortunately. She knows what sport means to the nation, but unfortunately, it's not the entire political will in Parliament. So we will follow the right, proper, channels, but I think it is absolutely uncalled for me as a sports administrator to require athletes to go to the extent, taking in consideration, how we use sport, to raise a nation.
Can I come in there? I think it depends from each person's perspective. For me, when Christine won that silver, what did she say to all of us here? She does not need to go to Parliament. I remember 1996 when Frankie Fredericks won in America, the Olympics. Some of us cried. Frankie did it alone. When you go in the world, 97, my first trip out of this country to Italy, when the Italians ask us, where are you from? We say Namibia. Ah, Frankie Fredericks. Frankie has done it for us. But what did we do in return for him? We have failed sport. We have failed sport. Christine has done it. Beatrice have done it. Look at our budget for this year. We have failed our athletes. Hank is paying for those children. But when those kids get those medals, it's for Namibia. And then we are told to make welcoming ceremonies everywhere. But when the kids are going, the money is not there. We are going to the Commonwealth Games. I don't want to go there. We are going to Malawi. I don't even know how many times my minister have written that we need this money. So it depends from which perspective you are talking about selling your sector. Our sector is not to go to parliament. Our sector is to prove ourselves on those courts, those fields, and those gyms. And if we get accolades, then we should have sold ourselves. Who is failing us?
Our people.
If you just shortly listen to what John have said, that is what discipline in sports brings. Sports brings rules, it brings regulations, it brings discipline. And a disciplined sports athlete will take the route of processes and systems. Indeed, the political will in terms of the government looking into bringing more money to sports, we have said the table is laid, the table is ready to be fruited, and what more should the Namibian athlete do to prove that we have the talent and the capacity to participate worldwide? Already by the structures, and we must not forget that Christine is just 18 years old, still school going. The structures that are there, let's utilize them for the right purpose. But more especially, what we need in terms of administration and management, we can have the best plans on paper, we can have the best management skills, but without funds, these things cannot be unlocked. Just as it was just said, a flight ticket to the Commonwealth for those 25 athletes, where must it come from? And as it was said, once you plow into sports, there is no return because you are building either individuals or teams. But at the end of the day, it's the Namibian house that celebrates. How many of us were glued to the TV last year? And we all came out with a swelling heart, feeling we have done it just because of Christine and Beatrice. What we are saying is, come, let's open the doors, both government and all. Remember, we had just a chat and there was a joke. Where are our black parents when it comes to supporting their children at the courts? If you go to, and this is nothing to do, I'm a teacher by profession, 29 years experience. If you go to the other side of the railway, everybody drives to athletics because their child participates. A person will take leave at work because the child goes to play rugby. But unfortunately, and this is for the new generation to come, unfortunately, our parents cannot take leave from cleaning their house on the other side of the railway because the parents of that house goes to the athletic stadium to support their child. Our parents should clean that house whilst the others are going. And in that same competition, the child of that mother is there to participate against the other one. So that's why the government is the mother and the father for the black community. So having said that, let's come back to the drawing board. Where do we draw the line? Let us have the sports commission levies that was said. This is advice. Let all the uranium companies, all the mining, let us bring through you, parliamentarians, a levy so that the sports commission can be empowered with financial money so that we can plow back to the school sport. School sports is the answer for development, and that's it. The clubs, I have another one. The clubs and nowadays the academies have been created in certain instances. Yes, some have a peer heart, but others has become a money-making thing. I will open an academy, somebody should enroll their child, I make money through that. Yes, good employment, self-employment. But where do we draw the line where we are saying that how do we administer and manage sports at school level, federation, clubs, and nationally? And the answer was given. Funds, money.
I think, I think let me help you draw the line with all due respect, Mr. Omar. The question was really raised that, is there that connection between what I can detect now is that a tripartite relationship, sports administrator, funders, and government as a regulator. The business model exists. The funding model can be tweaked. The sports structure exists in terms of grassroots development up to elite level. That is correct. I'm by no means no politician, but from a corporate point of view, we see a lot of duplication in efforts, which kills and strains resources that are little already. Ministry of Health, not so much in sports, but Ministry of Home Affairs, Safety and Security, the uniform services, they have sport. If you look at the organogram, they've got a sports section office, fully funded, fully supported, but it is within that confine of that. But give them praise and give them credit where necessary, because almost every boxer in this country is employed by the Ministry of Safety and Security, either as a police officer or Ministry of Defense and so forth. Now, that again, colleagues, is a model that is existing, can be replicated, but it's existing fairly well, because what it then does, it then tells you that if we just find collaborative synergies, as we're using the big word synergies, to bring all these elements together. Now, who is to bring all these elements together? And that is where now I would like to differ respectfully with Honorable Martin. Parliament is the perfect groundwork to create the environment sustainably and suitably for sports to flourish. And I'll agree with Mrs. Smith. We cannot stand up and say, yes, corporate Namibia, from our point of view, if I just mention for interest sake, our sports development budget is 62 million Namibian dollars. It may sound a lot of money. It is not. That is a 0.4 after our earnings before interest and taxes that we put out there. But I can tell you within 4 months of once those funds are released, it's gone completely. Now, 62 million per annum given to 8 sport codes is 10 million less than what was given to the revamp of the independent stadium. We are already not touching the surface. It is where I'm particularly very emphasizing to Honorable Martin, but also my minister here, because I'm a young man myself, that the only other way that you can enforce is when you do proper taxation through those levies. And it's a very key thing, because other countries have started realizing that if we cannot enforce asking nicely and people are not doing it, then let's force them. Why? Allow me to mention, not by names because of corporate ethics, the supermarket chains in this country, originally from south of the border. When you look at their investment in that country, extremely high. When you look at their investment in this country, 0%. They're not obligated because they feel that, well, I can give a track shoot and playing gear to a school in an informal settlement, and I'm good to go. We have life assurance companies in this country, 100 years old, 5 biggest one of them. We have 7 policies, life insurance policies, like we're gonna die 7 times. And they've not even spent 1% of what they make in Namibia to support those efforts. The Medical Aid Industry Fund of Namibia, through NAMAF, which, by the way, have 85,000 civil servants on their books. They've not invested in any school sports whatsoever. Hold me accountable to that, but these are facts that I know all about. Now, corporates, you've got the MTC, then you've got FNB, then you've got Namibia Breweries and everybody. So when we sit and we say, but how come it's only poor us being approached? Why do we do it? Well, of course, MTC, we understand the value proposition about it, but we are also very much conscious about our brand relevance because we need to do it. Our philosophy is, Coke has not stopped advertising, we shall not stop advertising, and one way to advertise is through community impact, and that's what we do. But if I can have 62 million times 10 out of all these corporates that we have in Namibia, I'm sure the minister will be a very, very, very happy person. But if the minister has been speaking and nobody's doing it, then let's force a levy. We've got the NTA levy, because nobody was paying for bursaries. We've got the NTA levy, Namibia Training Authority. It's there. Namra, which was just came about 2 years ago, is already benefiting from the fuel levy. Yet the Sports Commission is not.
Exactly.
The Mineral Energy Development Fund, the Energy Petroleum Fund of Namibia, all these are institutionalized mechanisms that pay royalties. But now, if those royalties are not affected into the young peasants of this country, then we are creating a society that will become problematic eventually because crime is going to go up, unhealthy practice is going to go up,
Absolutely.
unemployment is going to go up. At the end of the day, taxes won't be paid, and eventually money will be out. And I think that's, Honorable Martin, that's one key thing. Let's enforce a sports levy and make sure that a 0.1% or a 0.4% is paid. And then I can tell you right now that the 120 emails that I receive on a constant day for support will become less than 10. Because the organizations know that we have every year budget coming, and the minister can be very happy knowing that the law has worked. And the law must work. We can't have a sports development fund that exists in law, but does not exist in principality and practicality.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I have so many questions to ask, but I would like to open the floor as well to our audience sitting here. So as they get themselves ready with their questions, I'd like to ask one question. Mr. Ikongo just touched briefly on governance. But I now want to take it a bit further and ask the question, where does ethics and good governance principles come into all of this that we're speaking about tonight? And how do we get to good ethic practices and good sport governance practices as well?
I think what we need to understand from an ethical point of view is that there is no, ethics is just simply ethics. You need to do the things right, the right time, and the only time. That is an ethical issue. Good governance, we can talk about good governances. But if I do not have a process that entails and encompasses what good governance is, I won't know it and you can't blame me. So empower me to have that good governance system. So aims doing that. But now the good governance from a constitutional point of view exists only on the preferred position that as federations we put into our structures organized, efficient systems that will address those. One of the key things that I'll ask is that federations does not, if you don't have a year plan, that's one key thing already because you are likely to spend the money on an ad hoc basis and by pure excitement. No. Secondly, if you do not do audited, financial, transparent reporting, you are eroding the very minimal faith and trust that the corporate had in you. And they will not support that cause completely. Now, many people ask MTC, but you have been in football for so many years, and everything goes wrong. And I think the question was asked, but what is so popular about football? It's not about the popularity. It's about 585 young men and women, sending them to the street without an employment. And when you look at the community impact, that the 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, and maybe the bigger clubs that can afford to pay 10,000, is a salary enough for a household to cater for that household for a year. Now, if you remove that, you have basically contributed to social ill in society. The philosophy is here. A lot of the squabbles are unfortunately not as a result of the athletes. It's a result of egocentrism, big man mentality, and I'm more educated than you are. And that is where we go wrong. Now, why? It's a dominant personality taking charge over all the other personalities because he came into that position using his muscle of wealth and his dominance to create an impression that I can make changes. But the changes are not for the development of the athlete. The changes are for the development of himself, for whatever prominence he wants to achieve. And we can only eliminate that man if we, as advised, that we must look at starting appointing, whether it's a competent CEO for Cricket Namibia, NFA or so, and have these persons accountable to an institution. That will take them to task. At this point in time, all the federations can do whatever they want and they disregard Mr. Muya because the Sports Act is vague in some interpretation, or I interpret it as much as I want. And that is where we must get it right from a governance point of view. The systems, which includes the legal instruments, and if necessary, amend the Sports Act to give it more teeth, and so that we then know that once we have closed these loopholes on the site, we can then have a value proposition that is convincing enough for corporates to know that even if I execute a judgment for a judgment against something wrong, I can make reference to the Sport Act that ABC is happening. But right now, when the proposal is on the table, my legal team looks and says, no, but if we lose this money, I will not recover it because the Act is not protecting us as a corporate, and therefore, unfortunately, we will not support.
Before I open the floor, I have one question. Ms. Joan, you touched on this as well. Do you agree with Mr. Ikongo? Is this the way forward?
Absolutely. You know, we as an Olympic Committee and Commonwealth Games Association, we deal with international money. And it is so important for processes to be in place, for structures. It is so important that roles are properly defined. It is so important that controls are in place exactly as John has mentioned. You know, I always say, you know, we recently received one of the companies, John, actually wanted to give money to the Tokyo 2020 Olympians last year. So it didn't happen during the games time. And about 3 weeks ago, we took 11 athletes to the games. About 3 weeks ago, we received from this company 36,000 Namibian dollars for the team. So what did we do as an Olympic committee? It is money given for a specific purpose. The games is over. The athletes are back. So what do? Do we keep it or what? No. We divided the money equally amongst those 11 athletes, and we paid it out to them. Because that's part of accountability, transparency, And that is part of good governance. The Olympic Committee is audited twice a year. We have our own auditing company here, and then we have an auditing company coming from Switzerland, appointed by the International Olympic Committee to come and audit, the books of the Olympic Committee. I absolutely agree with John. So for good governance, and then, your elections, the transparency with your members, and do the elections as it should be, democratically, transparent, open, so that your members believe in you. Your members should need, and the relationship between us, and our national federations, our stakeholders. We have quarterly meetings to ensure that our members do get the platform to raise any issues. We have individual meetings with them. So I absolutely agree with John.
Moderator, I come a little bit there on governance. I'm very much excited as we are talking much about governance. We may ask a question in this house here. How many of our members who are currently in this house knows quite a number about the provision in the Sports Act? You'll find that out of 10, there'll be one. Out of 52 sports codes, president, secretary general, and many times, I remember from 2017, people drafted their constitutions without following this provision of the Sports Act. Then you start asking yourself, how do you draft your own constitution without following the provision of the Sports Act? What did you do in 2018? That's why I could see that people started getting confused. We introduced what we call it constitutional framework, that all constitutions, there must be some adjustments to ensure that you follow the provision of the Act. We find now, we use one example, one sports code. People stayed in offices for 20 years as the president. But if you look in the Sports Act, it says you can only serve for a maximum of 10 years. It became a challenge when we started running workshops. They said, Muya, what are you bringing? We knew that we can stay for 15 years. Not knowing, quite a number of people, even if you ask now, Section A, what does it mean? People will tell you they don't know what it's all about. I may also register now. We are actually offering what we call it sports management in some of our institutions. I studied the curriculum of NAST, sports management course at NAST currently now, of which we talk that we need to year to see NAST, because there's no provision made, even in one of their courses, for our students who are studying at NAST currently now to study even part and parcel of the Sports Act. It's not even part and parcel of the topic. Now you produce a graduate with a degree, and that person now must come and say Namibia did not even do any aspect about the provision of the Sports Act. I mean, then he comes with a degree, then you say this is a port administrator. What is he going to do by the end of the day? He will just apply the knowledge that he got at NAST, not following the policies that govern sport in this country. I think those are issues that we need here to highlight. That's why sport governance in this country is very key. The other aspect that we have introduced now is that we want, that's why we go to your school offering those short courses. We know not everybody wants to go for a 3-year qualification. Not everybody is grade 12. Okay. But those short courses for sports management, they are very key, because they'll be able to help our sport administrators to at least to have some few skills on how to manage sport. So we appreciate the service that's being offered by organization. I know we also now contracted Trafford College. We also are now in agreement with IUM that they can also be able to provide 3 to 4 months training courses to our sport administrators, because not everybody have got a grade 12. And sports, some people, they can become good administrators with a grade 10, but at least opportunity must be open that they can also be able to study.
Very good.
For sure. Like I said, I have so many questions to ask, but I'll open it to the floor now and hear if our audience maybe has a few questions to ask to the panel. You may, if you can speak loud enough.
No, there's a mic coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Matthew. I think one of the key things that has come out, I've been listening to the discussion and the statement talking about professionalizing sports through education has not come through. Because I think all the panelists have raised it. John has talked about volunteers. The only way you could be able to change that is to be able to train administrators through some sort of component. And I think Mr. Muya has raised that at the end where the NAS, ASOS, Triumphant, and other institutions are offering. The biggest challenge right now is that because sports is not a priority, sports education is not even a priority. In terms of funding, I don't think there's any funding. I know there's an allocation from the NASFAF in terms of how many students can be funded through the Sports Commission. But if you're going to train or fund around 12 or 15 sports administrators in this country every year, and you've got 54 sports codes, I don't think we're going to go to that level where you can be able to professionalize. So my question is, what needs to be done? And throwing it all across from NSSU, it's not only training the coaches. What can be done, especially with training institutions such as NAS, such as Triumphant, for them to be able to add value in terms of building capacity for sports administrators?
Yeah, if I can come in, what I know currently in terms of what the professional sports education training that is currently rolled out by NAMSCO is aimed at bringing training. There are 7 to 9 modules based on sports administration, management, event management, marketing. Because if you go and, as an ordinary teacher, you might just organize an athletics gathering without taking into consideration the marketing aspect. You might have this event, which is athletics. You might even underscore how many officials you need to have to make this event a success. You might forget that the people that are coming must come and eat something and drink cool drink, the supporters. So with this NAMSCO, which I totally commend, embrace, and also take ownership of as a chairperson, is because they are opening our eyes in terms of how to professionally understand sports, the administration thereof. Before the event even takes place, 3 months in advance, you should already know what should happen. I mean, the aspect of bringing in sponsors in terms of, let me say, when you have an athletics event, you need 10 gazebos of MTC. Now, without knowing we might bring in MTC, they have been marketed through our event, but they don't contribute anything because you are not aware. But with this training that NAMSCO is bringing in terms of educating or training teachers, those that have the means to pay that $900 for the modules of 1 up to 7, I believe the attitude and the direction and the vision in which we are taking sports administration and management is at the right platform. It must just be embraced, and most importantly, taking ownership of the whole sports management and administration. Because it does not help you are being trained, but you don't take ownership of it and drive it. That's from the NSSU perspective.
I think what Matthew highlighted is we agree there's a need. And I think probably that approach can be through the National Council of Higher Education to allude to it that sport management and sport education and courses or degree or programs that we were. Why? About 15 years ago, we realized that there's a need for doctors, homegrown. UNAM stars come up with a solution. Now, we have seen homegrown trained medical practitioners coming on board. Similar, we have institutions that we can revamp, reorganize, restructure into making sure that we probably maybe put up a Namibia Sports College as funded by government, as funded by private sector, whatever the situation might be. So that because a component caused by Triumphant College, by AIMS, by NAST will not, because where we're going in future, sport is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it can generate a lot of funds around it. And I think that is one of the key aspects that is lacking, because we see sport as a standalone activity that supports many other things. But instead is that it's a complex and dynamic process and program that can grow out of its own self and contribute significantly to the tax coffers. And that is one of the key things that we need to embrace and look into and establish probably a specialized institution. Because in it, that's when we talk about sports management, sports financing, sports development of sports, sports for health, sports medicine, physio, and all those challenges. Now, and those cannot be covered by one degree program only. It should be an institutional as that is there. And again, how do we go about it? It's just again synergies. If we say, let's look at the National Youth Service facilities and create those into that, then we can talk. Because if we emphasize this a lot only on NAST, Triumphant, University of Namibia, IUM, they'll say, but first and foremost, we will always look at the professions, the curriculums that will first bring in resources and financial means for us. And that's why it will always be parked at the back of the line.
There's another question.
A very good evening. My name is John Kraft. Mine is not a question, rather, but just a contribution. My CA, Mr. Muya, mentioned that universities like NAST are not, or should offer, or should look at the constitution of the Sports Commission. The Sport Act, yeah, the Sport Act, my apologies. Just to clarify, yes, the NAST in particular is doing this through a course called Sports Governance and Policy. We are doing this, we are giving this course because the program being offered at NAST is a sports management program. So we are looking at these kind of things. I would also like to disagree with the Honorable Martin when saying that as sports we should go to Parliament. I would also, in the same breath, like to echo what Ms. Manuel said. We don't need to go to Parliament because evidence is already there. When the parliamentarians are seeing Christine Bomber, they should ask themselves, okay, how do we get more bombers? How do we get more Masilingis? So we don't need to go to Parliament because we can see these things. These kids are becoming millionaires overnight, and we can change many lives through sports, yeah? Not create the Ministry of Poverty Eradication, but rather invest that money in sports.
Any other questions?
Oh, yes.
There's somebody here.
Okay, thank you very much. I am Patrick. Yeah, I played tennis.
Maybe you can stand.
I played tennis with John a bit. I hope he still remembers. I hope he supports our Central Tennis Club. He's about 100 and something years old as well. But those things aside, but I would just like to amplify two things that came forth here. I think the other one is from Mrs. Smith, having paid money directly to 11 athletes. I think the government, and even the corporate world should find a way of getting this money directly to excelling athletes. I know there are sports awards from, I think, the commission and all that, but that is not enough. Yes, money is put in there, but it gets stuck in the so-called development and administration. We need the money in the pockets of these talented young people here. Straight, it's possible. Yeah, the minister is here. The veteran affairs, I don't want to engage into generational politics like Job, but veteran affairs, you look at the budget and the money goes directly into the pockets of this. My mother is one of them, because she's a war veteran. It goes directly into their pockets. So it is possible to get this money, this little bit that is out there, to go directly into the pockets of young people. Because if it so happens that in these 52 codes, the 5 top athletes at least makes 100, just 100,000, my friends, the people will be motivated. Yes, there has not been soccer, but if we can organize soccer without NFA and whatnot, and get this money directly into the pockets of young people, they will be motivated to want to do sports. Thank you very much.
I saw a hand raised.
We can just try to explain.
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you very much. It is a very, very good point coming from Patrick. Yes, Patrick, I think from 2018, 1st of April, Cabinet approved what we call reward policy for athletes in Namibia. If you check in the media, my minister can testify to that. I remember last year we spent plus or minus around about 1.5 million to athletes who have performed very well the past 2 years. So we are rewarding athletes for their good performance. Like for Olympic Games, if you win a gold medal, it's a value of 200,000 Namibian dollars directed to an athlete. Yeah, all those athletes have competed. Hilarious is a very good testimony that they get money from government for performance in that line. So most of the people that are being acknowledged for their performances. I wanted to touch on one aspect about the industry of sport. You know, we need to be very honest. If you go to my tradition in my village, when you finish grade 12, they ask you, which course are you going to study? Every parent, you know, especially the black community, engineer. I think that's the reality. You go to the north, I don't think out of 20, there will be anybody who talk about sports psychologist. You know, when you just mention the word sport, they think it's play. Yes. You can even look about here in Windhoek here. My people, how many of them have studied those different fields of sport related? I can tell you, you go to physio, you go to any sports, you know, in the industry, you find that there are very few. I think advocacy among the majority of the Namibian population, that there are some other field of studies that we need. We can build a university here of sports. You end up finding only few applicants. I'll use a very good example. This morning, you know, we got an agreement with NASFAF for 36 scholarships. The first year we were supposed to take 12. Only 8 people. Imagine we advertised. Last year, we had also another quota of 12. Only 7. I'm disappointed this year as I stand now. We went out, encouraged people to apply for sports sales. I think my brother is also here. There he is. He remember how much, when I was in Botswana, I was even calling me night to see how best we can support them. That's why my brother from Trafford also is in here. They know how much we've done. But to be frank enough, only a few people apply. And now I have to go to NASFAF now. I was feeling very bad to say, they were saying, Mr. Muya, but we gave you these quotas. Where are your people? That's why we need to do advocacy, because we know our people, they don't want to start sports. I think there's a need for us to provide that advocacy, because opportunity has been created. We got scholarships for them, but people cannot actually be able to take those scholarships. It's become a challenge. I think advocacy is needed, that we need to tell our people this industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and we need people to be trained to become sport administrators and sport managers in this country.
Very good.
If I can add to that, Mr. Muya, I completely agree with you, but a comment, and I don't want to add any limelight to myself, but I considered the option of going your route with your scholarships. Unfortunately, my field was not available. So maybe if you could open the scope, because currently, as I understand, it's only for sport administration and management.
No, sport medic, sport psychologist, there are about 7.
Okay, maybe my level is too high then, because I was turned down, unfortunately. So maybe if it's taken a bit further, maybe then, because I know there are so many that would want to go further, but as you continue with your qualifications, it becomes quite a sum of money, as we all know. So if maybe, and I think that would be then a collective effort from all of us to say that together as the industry, we're going to contribute so that others can improve, who maybe do already have a bachelor's, but want to get to master's level, for example, that we open those opportunities as well. Maybe another question, PJ?
Just want to ask Mr. Mia, like, to what extent or what does the Sports Commission do to ensure that our athletes are not exploited by the federations, because the federation is affiliated with the Sports Commission, right?
Yeah. Come again?
Just speak louder, PJ.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Speak louder. Even though the mic is on, speak louder.
Okay. So, Mr. Mia, I'm just asking, to what extent or how does the Sports Commission ensure that athletes are not exploited by their federations, because their federations are affiliated with the Sports Commission?
Thank you. Can I attempt it? Thank you very much. My sister here can attest to that. I think that the project Roger is working on, protecting of athletes. I remember we also even had a meeting in Lesotho. I think my minister was also part and parcel. We had some people from, we got 2 members, I think, from the Region 5. Exploitation. There is a policy that they are the ministry, because the ministry, they are the policy makers. There is a policy document that the ministry is working on to ensure how best our athletes cannot be exploited. So there is a policy, and it's in the office of Mr. Roger Gambatuku, so of which I believe it must be at an advanced stage. Manuel maybe can be able to shed light on that part.
It's fine. You stated it all.
Okay.
What does he mean with exploited? In which way? Exploited? Exploited
PJ,
in which way? Is it exploited in what way?
Like, for example, we athletes go abroad and probably have to pay for gear. They go perform, they don't get paid, they don't get compensation for anything. We go to a high-end hotel, eat lavish, they come back to an empty fridge without anything that they went to go represent the country. In that sense.
Maybe I can just come in when it comes to international participation of our athletes, and I hope I'm talking on behalf of not only the Olympic Committee but also on behalf of the Sports Commission and the Ministry. So what we're talking now about elite athletes, whether they are youth or whether they are, seniors. We make sure, that our athletes are well looked after. So in the case when an athlete needs to go for qualification of an event, like for example the Commonwealth Games, the Olympic Games, they usually need to go to a World Championships or an African Championships. So we make sure that the athlete has got the funding to go to that event in order to qualify. We also make sure that the athlete does not go alone. The athlete's coach, it's important that we at least send the coach with the athlete. So everything is covered around that. The athlete then, qualify. Now the athlete needs to get preparation in order to go to the games. So what do? We sit down with the athlete. The athlete brings us a budget, telling us exactly of the preparation events that he or she needs to attend. We then make sure that there is funding available, but not only, for travel, for meals, for accommodation, we also need to make sure that the athlete is well looked after. So it includes anything with regards to medical. That's physiotherapy, that's sports psychology, that's everything. Then the athlete needs to go to the games. So we make sure that everything for the athlete is covered. So when an athlete leaves for a big games, like Olympic Games, like Commonwealth Games, you know, they do not pay a single penny. We rather make sure that the athlete and his or her entourage even get an allowance, some kind of pocket money, even though everything is covered on the other side. So when an athlete leaves the country to participate, to compete, because our athletes are on a level where they no longer participate, they go out there to compete, then we make sure that, you know, we look well after the athlete, to get the athlete there and to compete and participate and come back. I hope I've answered your
Yes.
question.
Very good.
Any other questions? This gentleman here in front was first, and then we'll get to the...
Safeguarding sport.
The next.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Safeguarding sport. He's the one that
Understand? Okay. I think, good evening. I think in terms of the ASOS, the tagline to say that we want to popularize sports, and when I saw the advert for this event, I cannot remember the exact theme, but I think it was something towards the benefits of sports administration to sports or something in that line. Yeah, exactly. And I think in terms of the discussion this evening, Matthew has said it, that even though I came late, I think I've been here for about 40 minutes, but I did not get that. Only John, when John spoke at the end, we wanted to get to the crux of that matter to say that what is it that we can do as an industry. But I think my contribution is to say that perhaps, for a lack of a better word, we can call it the industrialization of sports, to say, what is it that we're going to do to make sports an industry? That is the key question. The key question is to say, how do we make this sports an industry so that we can, in 10, 15, 10 years along the line, we can say that we have created an industry. And one of the things that we need to do, as Rati mentioned, is the issue of education and empowerment. Because we can't industrialize sports if we don't empower, if we don't educate, if we don't have advocacy campaigns like Mr. Muya said. The opportunities are there. And my last comment is to say that perhaps it is time that we as sports people also, and those of us that are in the industry, it is time that we started looking away or started to get away from the dependency of the fiscals in terms of funding our sports activities. And I think John was getting at that. Because what we are talking about now is to say that we need to unlock those alternative funding models. If you look around the world, no fiscus is funding sports development. It is not done through fiscus. Because when you want to do it through fiscus, you compete against so other multitude of problems. Today we are talking about salary, the salary of civil servants not being, hiked because there is no money. What justification will be there for the fiscus to roll out more money for sports? So we need to unlock the alternative funding models for sports development. I think that is, we can only do that if we empower, we educate, and we've got advocacy campaigns to make this thing an industry. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Kasuto. I'm a boxer. Okay. I only have two things. Number one, I listen to the whole panel, and I greet you everyone. I also greet you, Honorable. Good evening. Number one is that I'm listening to you. You have great ideas. great things that you are saying. But what is the way forward? As you all are sitting, what is the way forward that is now going to say, when we are going to come out of here, this is what we are going to try and push for sport to move forward? As a person that I've been in sport for 32 years now, I always used to listen to the panel, but when you're always coming out, there's nothing that is going to be done outside. That's one. Number two, I want us to create something. Whether any kind of sport, the 52 sport codes in Namibia, wherever they are going to host, if we want to make it as a teamwork, if we want parliamentarian to know or to see what we are doing, we have to make it as a teamwork in all the sport codes to come together. Whenever cricket is having an international game, we have to post it, we have to marketing, we have to ask all corporates. So when we are going to post that tournament, there need to be something that is going to open a lot of people's mind. Whether it's parliamentarian or whether it's any other corporate that was also maybe not able to come on the board, then they can also open. So that's only all what I wanted just to say on that one. Master Muya, yes, thank you for that one, but we tried our best. It's only that the failure came from NASAF. So, but we are still pushing. We are still pushing. Thank you very much.
Where to? And I'm very pleased, and I must really appreciate my minister for all this hour sitting here. And I could see deep inside there, she's reflecting of the way forward of how we are going to make this a success. And I want to assure all of us, this initiative involving us from different levels of whatever, it's already a step to the answers that you are asking. And having our Minister of Sport with us here and us who are sitting in Parliament, there are proposals like what Mr. Ekongo have given out here. And we are going to sit out there and reflect on this input. And I'm sure something good will come out that will help the sport industry. So I'll just be assured, and you always see how we constant trying our level best, pushing left and right, but with the extra input that we are getting here, it's another elevation to what already in our minds. So be assured that this is a very big step toward what sport is driving to.
Thank you so much. Yeah, from the school sports side, I have already mentioned it. We are grateful that the Ministry of Youth, Sports and National Service, as well as the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture, has a memorandum of understanding that they have signed. We are currently, as the ministries, busy reviewing the physical education. So it is called the Integrated Physical Education and School Sports. So the idea to have properly trained sports administrators within schools to lay the foundation is ideal. We are looking at school sports currently being funded by the Ministry of Sports, and the majority of the learners being school learners. How do we balance the scale? Are we moving the NSSU to the Ministry of Education, or are we keeping it at sports? But whatever may come, the ideal situation is that the structures and the new policy framework is being developed. So by means of that, we are going to strengthen, and most hopefully with the inputs from the National Council of NSSU, we will definitely pave the way for greater sports excellence in schools, sports. Thank you.
And by the way, maybe before we go far, let's not forget, we still have a motion on sport on the floor of Parliament. And part of that motion and the motivation is also to be sent to the committees of Parliament. And what the committees of Parliament does is they consult stakeholders. They do even public hearing or whatever process that they will use. So whatever that is also coming out here, I'm sure it will also enrich when this motion is going to be put out there to the public and so on. So I think this is just another step toward achieving what we are intending to have.
Sometimes the words of politicians, I know sometimes they like talking nice. Yeah, I know that one because it's politics. Sometimes it's something that you say, let's remove politics out of sport. Because that one is the only thing, biggest thing that I've seen for all these years. There's nothing to do with our ministry. That's it. I went to concert and Olympics, Commonwealth many times, African many times. But I saw how things are happening, and that's it. So I don't want these things of saying now, sometimes if you say, okay, let's allocate money to boxing. So you see now, politics is playing also a way of saying, okay, I'm going to find out how do we do. So now things are just maintained. At the last minute is when people want to be giving the funds for people to go out, and that's it. So let's just try to also treat all the sport codes the same, so we can also make something that, because politics is also playing a role there also.
Ms. Young, I don't know now when he's saying politics or politician, are you referring to politician or you are referring to those who are involved in sport politicizing their matters? Because in reality, if you look what happened especially now, even the 50 millions that the Minister of Finance has allocated to the Ministry of Sport, is because of what we have been pushing, trying to make the relevance of sport in Parliament. If you look at the debate we put out there, the issues that we raise concerning sport, it's making even the Minister of Finance to recognize. Remember last year, I was questioning the Minister of Finance and saying, since COVID strike and all the sport activities were put on hold, when the emergency grant was put out there to assist those who were affected, the sport was not touched. And if you look at when he was delivering his message, he kept on saying, you see now, Martin, he was mentioning that because he sees the relevance of what we continue advocating for sport. So this is not just the word of being a politician, but it's a research of what you also can witness or attest what is there already. And sometimes maybe people think when I'm taking on my mother, my honorable minister, with questions, I'm taking it of maybe because of personal issues, maybe between the two of us. But I raise the bar of those that we sit together there to understand what sport is going through. Sometimes I question questions to my minister and say, look, like the issue of our under 15 that were representing us at Belgrade, Serbia. I ask her, I say, Mommy, why are these kids not recognized? Why were they not taken to State House like whatsoever that have been happening? I'm not asking because maybe I want to put on sport or I want to do whatever, but I want the people that we are also sitting with, because any decision that have to be done by all majorities. But the three of us, the deputy minister and the minister of herself and I who understand sport, cannot make the overall decision. Parliament have to understand it. So that's why some of these issues comes in that way. It's just a matter to elevate the bar among ourselves, so that when sport matters have to be taken or decide, everybody is on par with us. So, in short, let me end there.
Yes, I think we've come to a point now that it's getting quite interesting, and we have so many questions that need to be answered. But unfortunately, we're not going to answer everything tonight, I think. I'm going to give an opportunity to our last student who's been waiting quite a while, and then I'll close off with our panel.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. My name is Absalom Festus Wilenge. As future sport management or sport administrators, let me say sport bosses in the future, we really want to see the political leadership having that will to center the budget on the youth. Not always when we have another panel discussion, then we'll hear that we still have minimum funds and all this. We really want to ask and say, what provision do you have in place to make sure that the national budget is youth-centered, not only when it's 50 million allocated to a stadium where not everyone have access to it as youths. Like that independent stadium, it's basically for political gatherings. It's not, it's not for sport events. And a child in an informal settlement who really want to see sport development from the grassroots. And on the corporate world, Mr. John, what initiative do you guys have in place to make sure that guys in formal settlements who are playing without nets, without football kits, guys without, first aid kits, what provision do you guys have? I see you guys are sponsoring these big clubs, but now we lie idle. We don't have football in the country. Players are now becoming the shaloliles in the informal settlement, grabbing phones and all this. So we want to see the future shaloliles progressing, not only in South Africa, but also in Namibia. So we want to see this grassroots participation whereby people also travel to informal settlement, not only in Windhoek, outside Windhoek, all the 14 regions. We really want to see a political will, people getting out of their comfort zones, getting out of their luxury cars and going to see what's happening on the ground. So we really want to see that. And the political leadership, Madam Shongarero, I know you have the sporting DNA within you. We have been with the sport. Ilaria Johannes, she's my cousin. She has been doing great. I really appreciate you and recognize you. Thank you so much for coming here. And thank you, Madam Moderator, for giving me this opportunity. So, Mr. John, I don't want you to go back to Parliament and only give Mr. Kachabibi high blood pressure with order. I really want you to go and put a motion of national interest on the youth, because we are the majority, we are the future spare wheel of this country, and we want to see progress.
All right, thank you. I'm now going to give our panel a chance, starting from Mr. Ikongo, to share final words on how do we get to having the best Namibian sports industry that we can, and then I'll take it through to the end of Mr. Khwaku.
Thank you very much. I think just in a few seconds to answer your question, it's a very fair question, but I will digress it probably to say that it's a fair question coming probably from a little less than background that should be out there. From a grassroots point of view, we've got two important programs that are ongoing. So, for the last 15 years through the Namibia Premier League, we've been sponsoring all the clubs, 12 clubs in the Premier League. Subsequent also, we've been funding 50% of all the first and second division within the entire country under the NFA structure. That is the contribution towards that. Now that Premier League football is not playing, as far as football concerned, I see you're a fan of Shalulile. We are supporting the NFA through the NFA Cup, which all the registered football clubs in Namibia participate in that tournament. Now, MTC is taking care of the entire administration, from something as your travel cost, your referee cost, your coaches cost, sometimes your meals, as well as the playing gear. And should you progress from the round of 32, every club is being given 10,000, gradually improving to 30,000 if you make it to the round of 8, and stand the chance to win 700,000 Namibian dollars as part of the prize monies. That is football. And that amounts to 15 million Namibian dollars, football alone per season. Boxing, that is why we took on now the MTC Kilimanjaro Boxing Academy as part of grassroots development for boxing. Now what we have said to the MTC Kilimanjaro Academy is that you will not promote professional. You will find talent within the informal settlements, within the villages, and particularly in areas where boxing is prominent, nurture them through the talent, put them through the conveyor belt, and then engage them further to Windhoek, because what we have realized as part of our observation and the reviews is that young people who love boxing get in a kumbi, come to Windhoek, and then hang around and say, I want to become a boxer, but we capture them where they are, and that's the key thing. So I hope I've answered that, but we can engage afterwards. To your question, ma'am, I think this is a clarion call that we have identified that sports administration, we need to move into another gear. And I can only see great results emanating from this. And again, I'll re-emphasize that we just need to reorganize, restructure ourselves, and professionalize. One of the key things that I'm saying about professionalism is that so long as we've got a voluntarism model, we will not unlock the potential that we have. So we need to discard the way with that model and appoint or employ and support those efforts of employing people with the right fit, with the right purpose, and hold them accountable. Secondly, sports governance framework. I think we need to rework about those sports governance framework, as Mr. Muya indicated. Why? If the governance is sound and proper, it makes it much more easier job to convince a corporate like me to support. And then once we support, that's when money and funding starts rolling in. The last one, the funding, again, I emphasize, and it's the only way. We have done the best what we can for the last 32 years, and it's not coming back. Maybe it's a bit of time that we take an electric boat and start holding these corporates accountable and say, we need to start doing more. Once we start doing more, we'll be able to realize the objectives that we want, and I think that's my contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Congo. Mr. Muya?
Thank you very much. In short, I think it was alluded by the colleagues here, and even my brother Roger there, he also alluded some very good points. If we are going to rely on fiscus, I remember one of the CEOs mentioned at one event, we need to start digging our graves. We go in that grave, we cover the sand, we put the tombstone. It means sport will die. We need to come with innovative ways, because we need to understand that there will be a lot of competing priorities. It's ideal we need that budget. But the reality on the ground is we need to know there will be competing priorities. That's why Brother John here came up with some, suggestions, and some that we can take home as an assignment, the aspect of levies. I'm so very fortunate that my sister here, they're busy working at the government in terms of the sports bill. This engagement, as the Honorable have mentioned, that the discussion, we have taken some of, the ingredients, that as we go in this path, we, from the Commission, our job is to advise. Those are some of the issues that we have to advise our policymakers, that they can be able to incorporate in the new bill that have to come, that we can be able to generate our own resources. I would also like to touch on the most important part. We cannot professionalize sport if ever we do not have good administrators and good sports managers. We need to start from there, from the club level until we climb the ladders. We can talk about professionalizing of sport in this country, but if we do not train the people who have to run those clubs, who have to run those federations, they need to be a dream that will go in the Indian Ocean. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muya. Ms. Joan?
Tanil, for me, it is a very straightforward one. The sport industry can become so much stronger if we use the resources, the human resources, the people skills, the expertise in this country to build sport, even as volunteers. You see, currently, if I know the expertise of John is important, then I'll bring John into a committee where I know he will be able to make a difference or to lead. The problem in our country is that we have people in positions with no interest at all, only there for personal interest and nothing else, for personal gain and nothing else. We can become so much stronger if we use the expertise of a Frank Fredericks and the knowledge, if we can bring those all together, and I can tell you we will be so much further in a few years.
That's for sure. Ms. Manuel, how do you think our way forward is?
I'm not sure going to give a way forward, but my conclusion remarks are twofold. If you have checked in the newspaper today, there will be a Rongo Governors Cup. So as a ministry, we are grateful to this initiative of these governors. It's a new phenomenon, and I call upon all my sport officers in the region to support these initiatives, because you know what? Being part of the regional agenda is a step closer to become a national agenda. And lastly, sport needs administrators, and administrators need sport. You cannot delink this. We need to take all the initiative and make sure that this is flourishing in this country. It just depends from which angle you are looking at and from what sector you are from. But we all need each other, whether it's sport, health, education, because it's a link. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Manuel. Honorable?
Well, yes. My conclusion remarks is just to say, where we are more working toward one goal, we can achieve better, which means I'm looking forward to see all the federations of various sport codes we have in the country working together, because it's not only about striving for maybe boxing, because that is where you are good at, or basketball, volleyball, whatever. If collaboration starts coming together, then we are able to build a nation. Because whatever one athlete learn from basketball, he will bring it to volleyball. And whatever they learn from here, they will bring it to netball and so on. So, but when we are collaborating, we will even be able to make the corporate world able to see what we are doing and get interest, because then at the end of the day, we have a number. But if it's only one federation or sport code that is doing better, the number will be limited. But the more like what he said there, the bigger we are, the bigger market we have, even for those who want to help us out. And let's not stop engaging our politicians. They might look like they are distant from us, but they are the means to some of the things that we want to know. And like John is suggesting, the levies that will help us to generate something. Mostly these are done by lawmakers that have to put up policies and so on. But then if we are giving them these ideas that sometimes they might not think by themselves, then at least we are off to go. So it's a matter of us working together, whether as a sport fanatic or whether as politician or whatever level we are, or corporate words.
So true. Thank you so much, Honorable. Last but not least, Mr. Kwahuk.
Yeah, for us, it is to create an enabling environment for all the Namibian learners to have that platform to participate, live out their talent to the best of their ability. Secondly, is to bring in strong leadership in terms of the NSSU structures, people that have the love for school sports, and also to make sure that this leadership is accountable to the learners and the structure. Most importantly, the change that I have seen is if principals of schools become the custodians of principals and management members, head of department, it's much easier to advocate with your inspector, your director, the executive director, because you are in a decision-making structure, so you can easily lies with the rest, but more especially for school sport to excel and produce the next Christine Boma and Maselengi. Thank you.
I think tonight has been so insightful, informative, inspiring, and I really do think that we've come up with a plan amongst us that would help keep the arms of our minister raised and would help her in advocating better, help her to only do her advocating work, and we do the groundwork. So, to our panel, I really want to thank you sincerely on behalf of the Ames School of Sport. I thank you sincerely, and I do appreciate that you took this time to join us and to share your expertise and your knowledge. Because without you, we wouldn't have known what we know now. To our audience, to those who have joined us on the stream, thank you for joining us. And I hope you learned something today that's going to instill a passion in you, that's going to want you, as of tomorrow, to work to better the sports industry. So, on behalf of the Ames School of Sport, from myself to Neil Young, I thank you for your willingness to partner with us to professionalize sport through education. Thank you. All right, okay, we will proceed to our hosting room and then we'll finish off there. Thank you so much.